हेलो एवरीवन। आज हम एनालाइज करेंगे रंग दे बसंती मूवी का, जो कि 2006 में रिलीज हुई थी और राकेश ओम प्रकाश मेहरा इसके डायरेक्टर थे। इसके मेन कैरेक्टर्स में आमिर खान, कुणाल कपूर, शर्मन जोशी, सिद्धार्थ, अतुल कुलकर्णी और सोहा अली खान है। और इसमें एक फॉरेन एक्टर है, उसका नाम मूवी में उसका नाम है सू मैकेनली। तो ये कहानी का बैकड्रॉप ये है कि इसमें कुछ स्टूडेंट्स हैं जो दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी के स्टूडेंट्स हैं। वो जैसे दिल्ली के स्टूडेंट्स हैं या यंग स्टूडेंट्स होते हैं, केयरलेस लाइफ लीड कर रहे हैं और एंजॉय करते हैं अपनी लाइफ को। और सू मैकनली एक लंदन से आती है एक प्रोजेक्ट लेके। उसने एक डॉक्यूमेंट्री बनानी है भगत सिंह और उसके साथियों के ऊपर। और वो सोहा अली खान के कांटेक्ट में आती है और उसको कैरेक्टर्स चाहिए अपनी डॉक्यूमेंट्री के लिए, क्योंकि वो हिस्टोरिकल कैरेक्टर्स को अपनी डॉक्यूमेंट्री में यूज करना चाहती है। तो इनका जो केयर फ्री लाइफ है उसको भी वो देखती है और धीरे धीरे वो इनमें कुछ चेंजेस होते हुए देखती है, जहाँ उसको दिखना शुरू होता है कि कौन सा इनमें से इंडिविजुअल कौन सा करेक्टर पोर्ट्रे कर सकता है। और इसी प्लॉट के साथ साथ एक पैरेलल प्लॉट चलता है सोहा अली खान के बॉयफ्रेंड का, और जिसका नाम मूवी में है अजय राठौड़, जो माधवन ने प्ले किया है। वो पायलट हैं, मिग 21 प्लेन उड़ाते हैं वो, और वो क्रैश हो जाता है। और वो क्रैश होने के साथ उनकी डेथ हो जाती है, और जो डिफेंस मिनिस्टर उस टाइम के होते हैं वो कह देते हैं कि वो नौसिखिए थे और उनको पूरी तरीके से ट्रेन नहीं थे, उनसे संभला नहीं प्लेन। और इस चीज को लेके माधवन की मदर, जो कि वहीदा रहमान ने प्ले किया है कैरेक्टर, वो और ये सारे फ्रेंड्स और बहुत सारे लोग प्रोटेस्ट करने के लिए बैठ जाते हैं। तो जब टेलीवाइज होता है, जब लोग ज़्यादा बढ़ने लगते हैं, तो गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से फोर्सेस आती है और उनके ऊपर लाठीचार्ज करती हैं, जिसमें अ, एक तो वहीदा रहमान कोमा में चली जाती है और बाकी सारे दोस्तों में भी गुस्सा होता है कि हमें कुछ करना चाहिए, कि वो कोई इस तरीके से उसको नहीं कह सकता। एक तो वो शहीद है और उसका वो एक तरीके से मजाक उड़ा रहे हैं, या सारी जिम्मेदारी उसके ऊपर लगा रहे हैं। ये कुछ लब्बो लबाव है इस मूवी के, कहा जो मेन प्लॉट है। तो बाकी कुछ डिटेल्स होंगी, हम धीरे धीरे उसके ऊपर बात करते रहेंगे। इस मूवी पे डिस्कशन करने के लिए मेरे साथ नौशीन है, जिन्होंने ये फिल्म 3 बार देखी है। मैंने एक बार ही टीवी पे देखी है और मेरे पिताजी मुझे घर से निकालने वाले थे, पर मैं किसी तरीके से बच गया। आज रिव्यू मैं अपने घर पे बैठ के नहीं कर रहा, तो हम थोड़ी बात कर सकते हैं इस पे। तो नौशीन से मैं पहले यही पूछना चाहूँगा कि आपका फर्स्ट इम्प्रेशन क्या था और आपने ये मूवी 3 बार ही क्यों देखी?
Thank you, Tejinder. And it's a movie which is very close to my heart, obviously. I saw this movie roughly at the same age age group that is also shown in the movie, not Amir Khan's age group, but the younger characters. So you can imagine how what a strong impression it made on somebody who was also going to college, who was into liberal arts, who was into um, you know, reading revolutionary texts, reading poetry, for them to be swayed by this really powerful, emotionally powerful portrayal of, patriotism, activism, and this transformation that all of this ability to transform our society. So those were the things that impressed me, and they, really bound me to this movie. And I went to watch with one set of friends, and then with just one another person, and then with another set of friends, friends from theater, friends from um, art colleges. So generally, who were generally thinking about it, and who were also kind of on the fringes, like the characters in the movie. They are also on the fringes of their academic life, their college life, their personal lives, their family life. They're actually nowhere, right? If you look at it. So when this British British woman comes in, Sue McKinley, and gives them a person purpose in life, they lap it up. And within that, a self transformation begins for each one of them, right? So, at one level, yes, the movie is about the journey that all the five characters undertake, and how the tragedy pushes them into taking an action, and how this tragedy also helps them think beyond themselves, right? Like you said earlier, that they were careless youth who were not really bothered about what happens in the country, and yet each of them have had their own reality. They were not classless people. So you have this extremely rich guy, Sid, right? Um, whose own father is involved in the subplot of of corruption and politics and all of that. And then you have Aslam, who represents the alienation that the Muslims face in India of 2000s. And then you have this unemployed person who's not been able to leave the university for 5 years. And then you have this guy who's basically you know so lost in life that only purpose that he seems fit is to get married or just to be with a partner, right? So anyways, you have these characters, and for them to undergo this really really strong experience and come out as idols, and as exemplary youth who could do this, and who could then inspire others and kindle that fire in others to um, create a change if they also feel strongly about something. So all of this is on one level very inspiring, undoubtedly, and it is also very believable, because in the passion of the youth you are prone to you know breaking the shackles, or uh, living your spirit, feeling fully alive, right? And that is what attracts or even pushes Sue McKinley to even consider them in the roles of the revolutionaries who played such a major role in India's freedom struggle, right? So yes, of course, you have to have that certain pagalpan, you have to have that will to act on an impulse. Only then can you really flip to the other side. If you're too cautious, if you're too drowned in your own if you're buried in your own reality of either um, responsibilities, or career or family. So when in that in that recklessness of youth, right? These notions and ideas of inqilab, revolution, and justice and freedom, they hold a different significance for an individual. And also because in that time we were not actually burdened by society and the responsibilities that are put on you. So you can actually expand from your own um, personal struggle, and then you can go into the public struggle, right? So that is exactly what this movie captures, and how they were able to act on the personal tragedy and make it a state, or not orchestrated, but yes, a state in a collective way and for the collective, by bringing to the fore the reality of corruption that exists, in which in this particular case, in this specific case, it was the second-hand parts of MiG 21 that led to the death of Ajay Rathore, their very close friend. So for them it was, and also the defense minister's comments about the pilot being a novice and being inefficient and being careless. in his own flight, which led to whatever happened. Now, as an audience, we know Ajay Rathor's stance. He's the conscience keeper of the group. He directs the group. He represents the true patriotic spirit, and he shows the mirror to them by saying that, well, I wear the uniform, and I don't wear the uniform for myself, although I really enjoy flying planes. But when I wear the uniform and I see the saffron, white, and green, I have no hesitation in laying down my life. And I truly believe in the notion of um, India, and the sacrifice is a very natural part of aspect of his duty towards this nation. So we have Ajay Rathore, and then the defense minister calling Ajay a novice or a careless pilot. Obviously, there is angst and anger in that, but it also shows that how the state is absolutely not concerned with human lives, right? For them, um, anonymity is more of a reality. It's a statistic. A life is a statistic or a collateral damage um, that is bound to happen in the way the things work, in the way the system works, right? Interestingly, it wasn't in connection to this movie, but I came across what Orwell said for the Spanish Civil War. So again, this whole idea of what Rakesh Prakash Mehra has explored in this movie grounds the story in the freedom struggle, but brings it back to the freedom struggle which is more relevant today to us. That is the freedom from capitalistic ideologies, from imperialism, from really the business commercial aspect of which has kind of infiltrated into all aspects of governance, right? So I came across this quote by George Orwell, not in relation to the movie, but it is very fitting. He says that revolution is the only way to remove from power the oppressive business based ruling class of the type that has dominated the West since World War II. So, yeah, I mean, any nation right now is founded on the pillars of economy, um, society, culture, politics, all that. But all those other pillars are now not so significant as the economy is, right? And it tells us that the whole idea of nation, which is also questionable, and so is patriotism towards that nation, is basically not as sturdy in the face of an economy oriented um, system.
तो जो आपने जॉर्ज ऑरवेल का कोटेशन यूज किया है, इसी से हम जो पहले डिस्कशन कर रहे थे, शिव वर्मा ने भी, जो इनके साथ
जी,
लाहौर कॉन्फ्रेंस के थे, उन्होंने भी
बिल्कुल।
कुछ लिखा था, खासकर इनकलाब जिंदाबाद और साम्राज्यवाद
मुर्दाबाद।
मुर्दाबाद की, उसके
हुँ।
ऊपर भी अगर आप थोड़ा सा रिफ्लेक्ट कर दें।
सो उस उनका पूरा कोट है जो मतलब पूरा इन द सेंस कि जितना हमें पता है कि ही सेड दैट Inqilab Zindabad represented the outlook that the revolutionary movement will not stop at the achievement of freedom. It will continue till the system which permits the exploitation of man by man and of a nation by nation is abolished, and a basic change in the socio-economic structure of the society is brought about. Samrajyavad Murdabad indicated the immediate task at hand. A slave nation cannot establish a classless society, abolish exploitation, and bring about equality amongst men. For such a nation, the first and foremost task is to break the chains of imperialist domination that bind it, In other words, a revolution in a slave country has to be anti-imperialist and anti-colonial. So basically, we cannot just be satisfied with a replacement in rulers, right? We cannot just be like, oh, we no longer have the white skin ruling us, but we have our own skin ruling us, right? So until that happens, it's an endless, it's a struggle in continuum, right? But for us, the 15th August 1947 marker is indelible, obviously, like it should be, but it does not really mark the end of all injustices. And I think um, why this particular movie became iconic was um, exactly after the 90s um, free economy era, right? And the free market era. What it brought to India as a nation was a complete overhaul of the structure and belief in the history, right? Obviously, because of the American capitalism, consumerism, um, and whatever ism you can associate it with the capitalist culture, neo-colonialism, coca-colonialism, right? All that, all that kind of became so integrated with our lives that we stopped looking them as aliens, like an alien culture invading us, right? By early 2000, by the time this movie was released, I think it was very necessary rekindling of a fire that do not forget the fight which took the form of a freedom struggle back then, and also the fight that is right now for you. Because in the movie, if you recall, time and again, the five people who play the historical figures, they keep debating about the state of the country, the poverty that exists, the utter hopelessness of not finding employment, or so they are critical voices. They were absolutely necessary for a lot of middle class which had no idea, because of the way their lives were structured, that oh, yes, the progress and development has happened, but again, are we looking at collateral damage? Are we looking at a very serious undercurrent which is brimming, like the socio-economic, the creation of a socio-economic society under the flyovers?
मुझे लगता है जो इस मूवी में ऑब्वियस है, हम जो प्लॉट है इक्वल जिसको इम्पोर्टेंस मिली है, जो फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल के बारे में है। एक तो काकोरी कांड है और दूसरा लाहौर कॉन्स्पिरेसी है। उसके बारे में भी हमें बात कर लेनी चाहिए कि उसका क्या सिग्निफिकेंस है 2006 में। वो लाने का क्या सिग्निफिकेंस है, और एक फॉरेनर के थ्रू, जो कि एक इम्पीरियल या कॉलोनियल बैकलॉग से नहीं आ रही इंडिया में।
So the storyline, if you look at representations, right? एक तो हमारे पास obviously there are incidents of the Jallianwala Bagh tragedy and the looting the train, all of that, right? Those are incidences which I think were year markers in the freedom struggle, because it also back then, in the 1930s and in the 1920s, it really changed the direction the revolution was taking, right? Because earlier it was Gandhi leading the movement, and Gandhi's weapons of choice were non-violence and truth and fighting with peace, right? I mean, fighting with peace, and I meant in terms of um, being a peaceful warrior, literally. And any sort of non-violence was um, discouraged and not be allowed to fester under Gandhi's way of protest, right? And also it served a huge purpose in our freedom struggle. I mean, Gandhi's role in freedom struggle is monumental, right? And it will always be timeless, undoubtedly. And this whole ideology of non-violence is, I personally feel is has more depth than the anarchist sort of way of resolving some things. Of course, there's politics involved. Of course, their opinion, and of course, their um, what do you call it? Um, conflicts that have been talked about, written about, following the following the two different paths that the revolution struggle was navigating, right? So I feel that these three incidences that you've listed were also, in terms of the sheer significance and the sheer power they held in invigorating the struggle and inviting the youth into it, right? The youth from Punjab and youth from um, north part of India, Maharashtra, and right elsewhere. So I feel that earlier it was, we had the marches, we had a clear stance that yes, we want the Britishers out and we want Swaraj, civil disobedience, and totally revoking the salt tax and whatever, right? And in the same vein, you have a movie called Lagan, in which we see how this whole idea of non-violent mutiny it plays out through the cricket match. So we have this example, but in Rang De Basanti, it was a very conscious choice, I feel, to revoke these incidences so that there was enough justification for the actions that the revolutionary took, right? And there was this scene when they take they want to take the intellectual route also, where they want to go to the parliament and get arrested so that they get a court trial where they're able to present their arguments, right, to the public. And also their own peaceful protest of through fasting in the prisons, right? In when they are incarcerated. So all of these different ways, I think, were very crucial to inform us as the viewers that the freedom struggle did not was not just like a linear struggle. It was a struggle where, all these tangents were working sometimes together, sometimes against. And actually, if you look at it, there was actually not a conflict between Gandhi and Bhagat Singh. They were just acting out of very different um, ways, but with a similar intention, right? And if you look at it, both were, you know, uh, if we have to go into judgment, both were absolutely right and both were absolutely, rooted in whatever they believed in, right? And for Bhagat Singh, the end of the line was the Jallianwala Bagh tragedy, where he completely, let go of his revolution of through the pen and the writing, and he completely moved to this activist oriented revolution, where killing non and all holds a very different stance. It is not a moralistic stance. So yeah, I feel that it was consciously done, the inclusion of those particular incidences to also match the vigor that Rakesh or Prakash Mehra wanted to instill in the youth and wanted to show that yes, today's youth can also go to that level of taking charge of their own revolution, right? almost bordering on how uh, we have other historical revolution like Che Guevara was a guerrilla warrior, and right. So it was that I feel the idea here was very clear to wake up all of the Indians, especially the young Indians, from this slumber, from this ignorance, right? Which was very much part of our exist, which is still now very much part of our existence. It's like, not my baby, not my problem, right? Having an attitude like that. So for that to, and also to show that, well, the people who die or the soldiers who get martyred, can be part of your own family also. How will you express that anger then, right? So you do have the power, and as citizens of a nation, that it is absolutely essential to keep the government in check, right? So in an ideal situation, right, where the fear and the restrictions that we ourselves only feel are no longer there.
और प्रेज़ेंट टाइम में हम देखें तो एक स्टैंड है इसमें कुणाल कपूर का और अतुल कुलकर्णी के कैरेक्टर्स का, जो कि एक मुस्लिम है तो एक बिल्कुल राइट विंग हिंदू नेशनलिस्ट पार्टी को सपोर्ट कर रहा है। उनके बीच का स्ट्रगल और उनकी जर्नी को आप किस तरीके से देखती हैं मूवी में?
आई थिंक उनके जो दो कैरेक्टर्स इंक्लूड करे गए हैं वो एक तरीके से आई थिंक कहीं कहीं जगह फोर्स्ड लग रहा था, टू ऑल्सो शो कम्युनल हार्मनी एंड ऑल, बट कहीं की जगह इतना वंडरफुली वो पूरी प्लॉट लाइन में फिट हुआ है। एंड हाउ, बिकॉज इफ यू लुक एट इट, जो अतुल कुलकर्णी का कैरेक्टर है, वो जो राइट विंग कंजर्वेटिव पार्टी आइडियोलॉजी को मानता नहीं, वो कंजर्व करता है, और मतलब बहुत शिद्दत के साथ ही इज डेडिकेटेड, ही इज कमिटेड टू दैट आइडियोलॉजी, एंड दैट इज हाउ ही इज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड इन द मूवी, राइट? And it's a very straightforward ideology, right? It's an ideology of the upper Hindu Brahmin class, right? In which it's not about being part of another religion, but it is also about following Western culture, or it is also about, um, patriarchy. It is also about all those notions, right? Which is, as anyone and everybody knows, especially after what happened in JNU, that it's a big reality of student politics, right? And politics at large. So I think that angle was also very crucial to share in this, because they have shown a campus on campus setting context, right? And it is something which uh, is also kind of nudging at them, right? They can ignore it how much ever, right? Like, Aslam is very safe, secure, accepted in those five people that he stays with. But it's also a reality that he cannot ignore. All the five people cannot ignore, because they are ready to fight for Aslam. They are ready to, stand guard against him. But still, they cannot ignore that, yeah, there are party workers, there are conservative parties which will treat him as an alien of the nation, right? An intruder into the nation. Now, if you look at Aslam's own life, in his very own home, the same ideology exists in his father and his brother. They keep telling him, your friends are useless, they're never going to stand up for you. They are, the country that we live in does not accept us. So these five friends of yours mean nothing. Their friendship means nothing. So you have to bow your head down. You have to toe the line. So in order to survive, right? So we have that reality also, and it is. I tell you, I met this person from Delhi who came to work with us, who was a Muslim, and not a struggling Muslim, but like a flourishing individual, right? Um, who had who you can safely say belonged to a well-off class, educated, extremely educated family members, parents, sisters, all of that, right? His sisters, in fact, going to Harvard. Now, but that person in 2023 and in 2024 reiterated not once, not twice, lot of times that my father, and they lived in Delhi for the longest time, like forever. They've lived in Delhi, they're established, they have a house in Delhi, that we don't know when we have to get up from go from here and leave everything. So it's better to make roots in other countries. Like they kept pushing him, why don't you go to Dubai? Why don't you go to Canada? So that we don't know what's happening, and especially since uh, this decade regime that we the decade um, of a particular kind of government that we have, right, which is perceived by a lot of minorities, or to be biased towards certain communities, right? So it is a very, very strong reality. But in 2006, as a student and as people, as a person who was exposed to Muslim culture, who was exposed to Muslim people, I did not know that this alienation was so strong. I had no idea. Yes, of course, we live in a bubble. We don't live in the metros of metropolis of Delhi, Bangalore, Bombay, all of that. And my schooling and education was in Chandigarh. But yes, I was very far from that reality. To the extent that I have myself faced questions about anytime I introduce myself to someone and I don't use my last name, almost never. And they come up with the next question, well, are you a Muslim? And I've always stunned as to how does that matter? Like, how does my name invoke that question? And many times I've not even clarified, because for me, it's a very, it's a really useless question. So, anyways, I'm just giving an example that in this particular movie, that it was, I think, very beautifully handled. The whole idea, it wasn't this melodramatic communal harmony of peace and coexistence. So they showed that very practical reality. Well, hey, a minority is a minority and is treated like that. So just like a white woman in India, in an Indian setting, is a minority, and how she is treated, right? When the characters undergo that transformation through history, where in the freedom struggle, where people fought shoulder to shoulder against the British, against the common enemy, and they could see um, the humanness of somebody who was different to them. And in this as well, this in through this project of or documentary, um, this guy, Lakshman and Aslam, were able to, see, look at themselves, look at each other. But the real transformation in their relationship, I feel, happened when this guy Atul Kulkarni became disillusioned with his own party work, right? Uh, with his own blindness to what is happening, right? With his own ignorance of what he is contributing towards, which gets shattered when at the time of the protests, when it turns violent, and there is rioting, and there is deliberate attacks and whatnot, right? The usual theatrics play out. So, so I think that was the real transformation, when he was not only able to bridge that gap with Aslam, but with all other characters, all of them, because for him, Aslam was one extreme, but others were also against the culture of Indian. They were in conflict or in opposition to what he upheld as India. So yes, the I think that relationship was very, very carefully and delicately handled, and it was followed through. till the very end, when even when they die together in the current time of at the radio station.
तो मेरा लास्ट क्वेश्चन होगा प्रोपेगेंडा के बारे में कि कोई भी मूवी किसी भी टाइम पे किसी भी रिजीम में होगी तो जो उसका प्रोपेगेंडा होगा, प्रोपेगेंडा से कोई बच नहीं सकता। कोई भी वर्क ऑफ आर्ट, हर वर्क ऑफ आर्ट का अपना अपना एक पॉलिटिकल स्टांस या प्रोपेगेंडा होगा। तो इसमें एक राइट विंग हिंदू नेशनलिस्ट पार्टी दिखाना और वो कंजर्वेटिव वैल्यूज को सपोर्ट करते हैं, उसके लिए वायलेंट मेजर्स भी यूज करते हैं और पुलिस रिजीम भी यूज करते हैं। बट एक छोटे से उस लीडर को जो शायद टीयर 3 या टीयर 4 का लीडर होगा, जो इसके अतुल कुलकर्णी के एक तरीके से मेंटोर हैं। तो एक तो उनके बीच में वो होता है टसल की, जो कहता है कि लाठीचार्ज हुआ वो गलत हुआ, लाठीचार्ज के टाइम पे वो लीडर थे। तो वो जब वो उनसे बात करने जाता है तो उसको भी पीट दिया जाता है, और वो डिसइल्यूजनमेंट वहां से उसका फिजिकली जब वो असॉल्ट होता है उसके बाद उसका डिसइल्यूजनमेंट होता है कि ये जो आइडियोलॉजी है या ये जो मेथडोलॉजी है कल्चर को प्रोपेगेट करने की, ये कभी भी एनार्किस्ट हो सकती है। और एनार्की दोनों साइड पे एक ही जैसी लगती है, जब जिसके वो जो विक्टिम है उसको उसको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता कोई रेवोल्यूशन ला रहा है जहाँ कोई कंजर्वेटिव है और कंजर्व करना चाह रहा है कल्चर को। पर जब ये उस इतने छोटे से लीडर को उस डिफेंस मिनिस्टर की गाड़ी में बिठाया जाता है जहाँ पे सिद्धार्थ के फादर अनुपम खेर भी हैं, जिसको सिद्धार्थ उनका भी मर्डर कर देता है, वो पूरा ये जो इन्होंने प्लॉय तैयार किया था डिफेंस मिनिस्टर को मारने का। तो इतना लंबा क्वेश्चन मैं इसलिए पूछ रहा हूँ कि एक तो होता है कि एड्रेसिंग द गैलरी, जो प्रोपेगेंडा लिटरेचर या प्रोपेगेंडिस्ट वर्क ऑफ आर्ट करेगा। तो इस करेक्टर को खासकर उस सीक्वेंस में उस गाड़ी में बिठाना, इज इट लाइक एड्रेसिंग द ट्रेजरी बेंचेस देन?
Absolutely. So if you look at it, the movie is to its core anti-establishmentarian, right? So it is a movie which is anti-authoritative. And the your question about propaganda, yeah, it was pleasing the people in power back then in 2006 by planting that little, nuance or little hint of, yeah, these are the party people who were corrupt and, and this is how we are very uh, unbiased in our representation, right? But of course, any intelligent viewer can make this out. If it was released at the time when the other government was in power, we don't know how would they have handled. And in that scenario, would the movie uncut, right? So we don't know. Those are all ifs. But yes, there is no denying that there was a clear message. In the way also the right wing conservatives have been representative. Represent free market economy and liberal India. The saffron was a problematic figure and it still has been. Although to say that it is problematic would be our own naivete, because we understand that how the other government is also as problematic. It just does not have the religious color to it. It has not put a religious color to it. But yes, there were issues and there were problems that one has faced even in the other regime, right? Um, so I feel that it's fine because it was serving the plot line quite well in a way, right? The storyline kind of came together with this business person who's an investor in, or who's a middleman in the purchase of the governments, and there is the government as an entity which is buying. who are the party leaders who are lower in hierarchy, right? Who take care of the issues that can be settled in a, um, at their level, right? At their level. So I think that trifecta was very, very accurately represented. Unfortunately, yes, I think it was a selfish or a self-preservation tactic that the filmmaker used so that his film would get passed, so that this message would get out, the story would be presented, right? And this is, I feel, part of, you know, our history. I mean, this actually is politics, and we were looking at politics through the politics of filmmaking, and also knowing that there is a politics in the movies that come out and then the movies that we get to watch. So yeah, cinema as an art is going to include all of that. So for me, this propaganda wasn't really problematic, but yes, it does raise a question that if another, how would the director have dealt with this particular piece in the story if the reverse government was in power or the competitive government was in power.
All
I
right.
don't know if I'm able to answer your question, but yeah, that's what comes to my mind. One another thing I would like to add is that, the entire movie, in the entire storyline, the subplot, the representation of the movie, there is a very clear narrative. Okay, and that clear narrative is about um, about human or the individual life being as important as uh, the life of a state, right? So I feel that for that narrative to sustain, it was it was perhaps more important that you show that, hardline party ideologies have to be criticized in some way or the other. Like, if one would think about 1984, then obviously you will be criticizing the Congress, right? So I feel that it is also important as a tool to keep the citizens in the awareness of their own right. Do not forget that narrative. It was also the people of the nation that led to 1947, August 15, and it is also the people again who led to different revolutions at different times. And everything is tied together so well in the story, right? It's a thread that never drops. It's a yarn that never spills over. If you look at the music, right, it is timeless. You look at Khoon Chala, it is an anthem in itself, right? Rang De Basanti, the title song, that is so empowering, right? Rang De Basanti Chola, which is also the patriotic song of the early 20th century. So, or maybe even before. And then Rubaru, right? ये आग है मुझ में कहीं. So from the lyrics to the music um, to the that it was such a like, if you went to the theater and watched it and if you were not moved, there was something really really off, because Atul Kulkarni, you actually as a viewer get goosebumps. And it was important for as a young adult for me to also relive the revolution in flesh and blood. Maybe that was missing from our culture, and this movie served that purpose very well. Sort of a comical form, because They introduced the idea of protests through candlelit marches, and we had like countless marches after Rang De Basanti came on. But the difference was all the protests, all the revolution that this movie wanted to inspire ended at that candle march. It did not go beyond it. It was exactly how today someone posts about Palestine on their social media and they think they're done. So this was the only that the movie had, but I don't know if everybody took up guns, would we talk about this negative impact after the movie? Because yeah, it was something like, oh my god, does the youth start killing now? Because there is a lot of injustice. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. So everybody has to really look into themselves to see what their revolution looks like. And it's a deeper question about revolt, empowerment, how you know how conformist or how state sanctioned regulations apply to you, right? All those dynamics that play out. So yeah, I think it's a great way to introduce that dialogue uh, to young people and also to older people, because I feel that it's not just if you're 20-year-old, only then you can be a revolutionary. Of course not. You have to understand your truth and all of that. Yeah. So I think it's a question that how we interpreted the protest in our own mind, in terms of a theatrics, in terms of that performance for the eyes, for the television. But no, the real revolutions are not televised.
मेरे ख्याल से हम इस नोट पे ही एंड करते हैं कि द रियल रेवोल्यूशन विल नेवर बी टेलीवाइज्ड, और जो टेलीवाइज होगा तो वन फॉर्म ऑफ द और द अदर, वन फॉर्म और द अदर प्रोपेगेंडा ही होगा। और लिटरेचर को, आर्ट को, किसी भी आर्ट फॉर्म को इससे डील करना ही पड़ेगा। तो इसी के साथ आज की डिस्कशन को हम यही ख़त्म करते हैं। नेक्स्ट टाइम हम किसी और मूवी के साथ आएंगे। तब तक के लिए गुड बाय एंड थैंक यू।
Thank you. Bye bye.